piece of it all. I find some meaning, but it just sneaks away right out the back door.
Alright, so I'm back in my dorm now. I just got back from the hospital and I got stem cell therapy. If you're new here, my name is CJ. I'm a D1 athlete here at Fordham in New York City, and for the past 10 months I've had a really frustrating injury that's left me sidelined from the track. It's been a really tough road to recovery, and recently I was told, based on the severity of my tear in my labrum, that I needed to get this procedure done to be able to allow me to come back in due time for the season. This was honestly the most painful procedure I've ever experienced, and even with being numbed, I still wasn't a lot of pain. It was really tough to go through, but I understand this is a very important part of being a college athlete, being able to kind of get these things done so I can be able to come back to train. And with that being said, I'm making this video to just highlight the reality of being an injured athlete, because there's so many things we experience that aren't just physical, that are mental, that people don't ever talk about, that people don't highlight, and we try to portray that, you know, when you get injured, it's this like very easy process to come back, when in actuality it's very tough. And there's a lot of things you experience that aren't always very apparent based on just how you look. It's a lot of things I experienced mentally with, you know, the identity crisis whenever you're removed from your sport, or being socially isolated from your team, and different mental things that you also experience that I will talk about later on this video. I broke this into numerous parts. I'm going to be able to break this down and just really have a very honest conversation about this, because I know that there's a lot of people who are enduring these things, and I've seen the ups and highs of being an athlete where you're getting school records, you're performing, and you're doing really well, and then I've experienced the lows with the injuries where like it doesn't feel like it's going to actually be able to heal, and you're just really frustrated. And I want people to know that, you know, there's light in the tunnel, and that you're going to be able to get through these tough times, but you know, the things you're experiencing are real. Last season I had a grade 2 hamstring strain, which is one of the toughest things I've ever experienced in my life. I was sidelined for a while where I couldn't really walk a whole lot. It hurt whenever I was trying to do everyday things, like doing just very simple things that should not be challenging were causing me pain, and it was just really frustrating. And it caused me to even think, like, if I can't even do these little things in my everyday life, how am I going to be able to run the track? How am I even going to be able to compete at the collegiate level? And that was the thought process that I had for a while, where you're doing rehab, I'm getting frustrated because I'm not getting better. These doctors are seeing me, they don't really know what the problem is, they can't really diagnose me, and it's just this really long process of just like doubting if I could even be able to overcome this injury. And even after I was blessed by God and was able to be healed, I came back to the track, I still had those doubts. They got worse because I'm now in my event group training with my teammates, and they're light years ahead of me with being in shape. They've gotten so much better and on the track with how their conditioning is, with their times, with their speed, and now I'm here, out of shape, can barely finish the workout, I'm throwing up, I'm just fighting for my life out here, and I'm like, if I can't even do this, how am I going to be able to actually race? And it's just like, wherever you're coming off these injuries, it's a continual battle to overcome these mental barriers. A lot of what I was experiencing was rooted in the fact that as athletes, we're competitive, and we have that Mamba mentality where we're trying to be the best athlete in our respective sport, and we're trying to compete to, like, you know, dog everybody who we're competing against. I didn't fully understand that by looking at my peers and looking at other people, other schools and other places, comparing them to myself was just really hurting me in the end, and I was causing a lot of pain and a lot of things that really weren't necessary. And until I was able to understand that the person I was 10 months ago, where I was in my best shape, is not who I am right now, and it's going to take time to get back to where I was previously at, I was just inflicting a lot of mental pain on myself. And it was just this battle that was really frustrating. I had to really go to God and pray for those things and be able to understand that it's a process, and that, you know, my portion will be redeemed, but it takes time. And going to those first couple of meets where I didn't run as fast as I wanted to run, where I had to have a really important reality check, it allowed me to grow. And a month or so later, when I am in shape, I'm running faster, I'm doing other things to get better, I was really able to appreciate the reward of being able to improve. There was a point last February where we went to Boston to this big invitational, and I was not supposed to be, or I didn't know I was going to be in the invitational, because they had like the actual meet and there's the invitational. I didn't even know I was a part of that. And I get to the meet, I'm part of the invitational, I'm like, oh, this is cool. I didn't know like what to expect. And I get into the first race. I at this point had experienced a lot of humbling, so I was just like, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna pray for the best, I'm gonna go out there and just race. I get into the heat. There were some guys who were professionals who were in the heat before me, people who have ran at Worlds for their country, which is like a very big deal. It's like kind of up there with Olympics for track. And I go into my heat, I race, I get second in my heat, I'm hyped, I get a score record, I got go 6:89, which if you don't run track is pretty relevant. But after that race, I remember going to the hallway, I broke down crying because I was just like so emotional and so vulnerable because I had gone through so much with the rehab, with the setbacks, and doubting if I could even be able to be the person I was prior to this injury. And once I was able to humble myself and be patient and just trust the process that I was on, which was not easy in any regard. It took a lot of time to really be able to get over those barriers. Whenever I finally got like the reward of PRing and running faster than I ran prior, it was just like so real. Within sports, no one ever wants to have to do rehab. It's one of the most annoying and monotonous processes that everyone has to experience at some point. And when you're injured, it's so easy to get tired and frustrated with the process because it's one of those things where like you're so close to being back that it's really easy to give in to those social pressures of trying to push in and push through those little pains you're experiencing while doing rehab, when in actuality, you need to be taking your time to get back. And it's hard. You have coaches who are investing in you when you're in college on scholarship or when you're in high school. You're trying to get that offer, you're trying to get back so you can be able to compete and be able to show the coaches what you can do. And when you make the decision that you're going to push the rehab, come back faster, you're really just opening the door for a greater consequence just that's delayed. And I'm not saying that like to make people be fearful, but it's just something that I experienced that I can attest to that is not worth it in the grand scheme of things. I've been sidelined for the past 10 months because of that. I initially had a strain that I didn't think was that big of a deal. Because I was just running really well, I was close to breaking a school record. My coaches were kind of like, all right, we'll do treatment, we'll do rehab, we'll do the different things to be able to help with the process. And my trainer kind of was in the same boat. We did like the prehab, so I go to practice early, do extra things to prepare myself for the workouts. I go to the workout, do it, and then after the workout, I'm doing even more stuff to be able to help strengthen muscles, which in actuality just shows how I really should have just listened to my body. And whenever it got to that point in the season where it was a lot more important, I needed to really perform, I ended up having a tear in my left labrum that has left me sidelined for this entire 10 months. It's been extremely painful and frustrating, and something that would have initially taken a month or so to heal has taken so much longer. And I promise you, you don't want to do that. It's so frustrating. If I could have gone back the whole shoulda, coulda, woulda thing, I would have just sat out, let my body heal, and came back. But this is something I had to experience that is a really good life lesson, that it takes time to be able to heal. It's important to be patient, and a lot of times, with everyone now, no one is patient anymore. Everyone wants to get the instant gratification, and you have to really be able to walk your own walk and trust the process, because if you can't allow yourself to let your body heal and trust in God and be able to kind of be able to get through the uncomfortableness of having to sit out for a little bit, then you're never going to really be able to allow yourself to heal and be able to be the old version of yourself that is fully healthy and be able to kind of compete at that high level again. Within college athletics, a lot of athletes are on scholarships. Schools are giving you a lot of bread through your Scholarly or through NIL, so there's a lot of financial incentives for you to perform. And when you can't compete and they can't make you push through injury, or you're kind of like chocolate, they just throw you to the side if they can't really use you. And that's why a lot of schools, not where I'm at, but they will reduce your scholarship if you can't perform, or they'll encourage you to enter the portal and kind of tell you like you won't really have a spot or you won't play here. And that's like a really bad side of athletics people don't talk about. And whenever like you're injured, when you're doing your rehab and you're trying to like get back onto the track if you're in my sport, or you're trying to get back into the pool if you're a swimmer, you are isolated from everyone, because like everyone's at practice, they're doing their thing, they're competing, they're getting better, and you're kind of just on the sideline doing your own thing. And even though it might not be for that long, or you just feel those different emotions of feeling like you're secluded from everything. And when you can't travel with the team to these games or tournaments or meets, that's where it just really hits different, because a lot of the camaraderie and things are formed when you're one competing and when you're also on these road trips where you're kind of forced to be kind of close and kind of become a family. I remember like when I was a freshman, I wasn't as close to my teammates, but whenever we started traveling to those big meets, we were on these long bus rides. Even though they weren't always fun, that's where we all became close and really were kind of able to have the camaraderie. And when it's taken from you, you're kind of just on the sidelines. You just kind of feel isolated from everyone. And at times, people don't understand what you're going through because, if you haven't had an injury, it's hard to relate. So people aren't talking to you. They're not really voicing concerns. You're kind of just there, kind of feeling like no one cares about you. No one really is trying to help you through this really tough time. Whenever I had my hamstring injury, it was one of the most depressing things I ever experienced because I was just so far from everything. I would have to do rehab and do all these different treatments and different things that just took up almost all practice time. So I wasn't at practice. Then I would try to make the efforts to socialize with people, but it just wasn't really helpful. I'm not someone who's very wanting to go party and do other different things that are very common with how people socialize in college. So then that kind of made me even be more far removed. And then once I was back on the track, I was still physically there, but I just was not a part of the quote unquote cliques and stuff. And whenever I was going through those mental barriers of social isolation and feeling like no one cared about me or people weren't really there for me at that point, that's whenever I talked to my trainer and I made the use of going to therapy, which is something that I previously did not realize how important it was. I think a lot of times as athletes, we have these extremely high pain tolerances and we are told to be super tough, put this face on, push through everything. And the mental stuff, you can't push through that. You have to get help. I didn't understand how important it was until there were moments when I couldn't sleep. I was just really in bad moods because it was just really hard to experience kind of the things people I was really close with, I'm no longer close with, and I was having to kind of grapple with that and grapple how the different change within social dynamics, which was really tough for me. But going to therapy really helped me a lot. It really changed a lot of the problems I was going through. I made me really understand how to navigate these different challenges. And one of the things I would definitely advise to any athlete, whether you're in high school, college, professional, or even you're in middle school, making use of these resources is so important. As athletes, we're very ambitious and we start playing our sports at a really early age. And because of that, it becomes a really big part of our identity. And when you're in high school, although you're trying to get a D1 offer, you're not really doing everything around your sport. You're still doing things in the classroom. You're still focusing on getting that goal of getting to college. But at the same time, unless you're in Texas where I was at, where sports are daily religious, you aren't necessarily having your entire day be dictated around your sport. But once you get to college, you're now on scholarships and everything you do is encompassed around whatever sport you're getting a scholarship to play. And one of the things I really quickly realized is when you get up at 6 in the morning up until 10 p.m. at night, you have practice, lifts, you have extra workouts, you're doing extra work, you're doing recovery, you're doing all these different things that are all encompassed around the sport you're playing in college. And I found it hard for me, even when I'm in class sometimes, because sports is so important to me and it's what's paying for my school. I'll be in class struggling to focus at times because I'm just so focused on I have a big meet coming up this coming weekend, or I have a race in a couple of days. I'm trying to figure out how I can be able to think through the mental side of being able to compete, be able to perform at a high level. And those are kind of things that as an athlete in college, you're constantly thinking of how to better perform in your sport. And with that, your sport just becomes more of a job and occupies so much of your time that whenever it's removed from you, you don't know what to do because you associate all your productivity with what you do in your sport. And now it's you can't train, you can't do things to improve. So you're kind of in this very unique space where you're on the sidelines, where you're having to do rehab or you're having to rest and not do anything so you can actually fully heal, and you just don't know who you are anymore. I felt that this past 10 months where the injury I had, I didn't really think it was going to take this long for me to get healed. And here I am 10 months later, still fighting to be able to get back onto the track. And I'm someone who draws a lot of my joy and happiness from how I perform the track, which is a very flawed thing. And whenever I have really bad races, I get in a really bad mood. I'm unhappy. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to be on my own and just think through what I did wrong. And I realized whenever I got hurt that I had put track in such a high place that it became an idol, and I was putting it above my relationship with God, which is something that should never happen. And it's been a really tough process for me being able to kind of learn that I can't prioritize my sport so much, even though I aspire to be able to run at the pro level. Because at some point, we're going to have to retire from our sport, whether you're playing basketball or football or playing cricket, whatever it is. Like, when you get to be 50 or 60, or even your 40s, you're not going to probably be playing your sport anymore. You know, in track, we have the masters, but like there ain't no bread there. So you're going to eventually have to kind of retire the identity complex with sports. Whenever you are in that phase with injuries, it's important to kind of tell yourself that, yes, this is tough, but I'm going to get through this. And I am more than the times I run on the track, or I'm more than the times that I hit when I'm in the water. Like, you are valued as a person, you are important, and that you can't just see yourself just as an athlete. So this pretty much concludes this video. I've enjoyed talking about these different topics. This is something different from what I usually do. I want to try to be more authentic with y'all and be honest about the different things I'm experiencing as an athlete and be able to be more relatable to y'all. I know that all y'all are pursuing your dreams within athletics or other ventures, and people will always experience setbacks and injuries. It's just the reality, and I want to be able to allow y'all to understand you're not alone, that there is a light in the tunnel, and that you're going to be able to get through these different things you're enduring. And if you are ever experiencing things like with injuries or things you want to talk about, like, comment down below. I'm always going to respond to comments, and hit me up on Instagram because I'm more likely going to respond. I will respond to DMs 95% of the time. There's some spam bots who be saying stuff that I don't respond to, respectfully. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys would like me to kind of do some more videos that are kind of similar to this, or just answer questions about my own injuries, things I've experienced as a college athlete, comment down below. But it's CJ signing out.